Hi, and thanks for joining me today. My name's Andrea, and I'm a Pilates teacher, but I'm really interested in how mindful movement and meditation techniques can help us to overcome anxiety and stress, and the symptoms that really come from having too much anxiety and stress in our lives. So today I wanted to introduce a little exercise to you. It's not going to be movement based, it's going to be paper based today. And it's actually based on an exercise from acceptance commitment therapy, which I've been doing a lot of reading about lately. And I find really interesting because it really connects with the ideas that I've been sort of considering for the last 5 or 6 years about mindful movement and most recently meditation. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you. And this idea of getting stuck. So I feel like this inertia or this getting stuck happens when we have too many options to make, too many choices to decide between in our lives. From the very first moment that we wake up, you have the choice to stay in bed for a bit longer, maybe hit the snooze button, or just to go back to sleep. You have the choice to get up and maybe take a shower or eat breakfast, have a cup of tea, have black tea or coffee. There's just a whole multitude of options that we're presented with from the very first moment that we start our day. And sometimes that can be really overwhelming, especially if you're already feeling quite anxious. I know that COVID has been and lockdown have been a really hard time for people with these struggling with these symptoms of anxiety and stress already. It kind of takes a whole load of option and choice away from you, and then you feel maybe a little bit trapped with what you're left with. But outside of this very interesting time that we find ourselves in, it's like, there is lots of things that we can do to help reduce the amount of anxiety and stress that we feel about making choices and choosing which options are really going to help to move us forward to where we want to be in our lives. So the very first thing I want you to consider is how there's a million different thoughts going in through our heads every single day. That's an exaggeration, but maybe not. We have all these different things, especially COVID's a really good example of that. It's like we have the option to go out and put ourselves maybe at this in a risk that we think is really high or really low, depending on how you feel about the situation. But if we were to break that actually down even smaller, there's inherent risk in every single thing that we do. So even just you choosing to get up out of bed, you could just fall over and break your ankle or something like that. So it's not like staying inside is risk-free or free from danger and all of that. There's risk in every single thing that we do. So it's just allowing your brain to focus on the bigger risks or whatever you think is going to present as the biggest threat to your health or to your livelihood. And the same goes for what you choose to be important. So whether that's your social life or your working life, that's where you're going to put your energies and your focus is on those things that are most important to you. So actually, this exercise that we're going to be working on has to do with what you find to be most important. How mindfulness fits in with this. So this word mindfulness gets thrown around quite a lot. And people apply it to absolutely everything these days, but maybe they don't really go into what that word actually means. And that word actually comes from a bigger Buddhist philosophy. The word for mindfulness within Buddhism is actually sati, which is a word that means awareness or remembering to pay attention. There's a book that I really like called The Mind Illuminated. It's by John Yates, who was a neuroscientist, but has also studied the brain and the effects of meditation on the brain. And he says that mindfulness allows us to recognize options, choose responses, and then take control of our lives. So really all mindfulness is you deciding what's important and placing your attention and awareness on that. So say, take mindful eating, for example. If your health is really something that you want to start to focus on and improve, then maybe you'll start making options like eating carrots and hummus instead of a bag of crisps. You know, just little things like that. Things that you probably already know, but might not be doing because, again, you don't have time to focus on your health and you don't have the motivation to do it. So really, mindfulness allows us to kind of take a step back from the feeling of overwhelm and be like, actually, I'm going to focus my attention and awareness on these things that I actually find of value. So, time to start this little exercise. You're going to need a pen and paper. I'm a very tactile person, so personally, I love to write things down and explore ideas through looking at them. So find a piece of paper, a pen or a pencil, and you're going to draw 10 circles around in a bigger circle. So make sure you're not making huge circles because you want to be able to go around and put a circle in 10 circles into a bigger circle. And then once you've done that, we're going to start to label these circles. So your first label is going to be friends. Next to friends, the next circle is going to be labeled employment. And then after that, we'll put family. So your first circle, friends, second circle, employment, third circle, family. And then your fourth circle will have education / personal growth. So if you want to shorten that, you can. The next circle is going to be recreation. After that, spirituality. And then the circle after that, community. So that's 3 circles that you should have left. The next one you're going to put is physical well-being. And then you're going to have marriage or intimate relations, so such as a couple or, you know, your partner that you may have. And then the last one is going to be parenting. So feel free to pause, go back if you missed any of that, and label all of your circles. So you should have 10 labels there. Once you have all of those labels, I want you to now assign inside of each circle a number from 1 to 10 according to importance. So say that your family is really important to you and you want to that's something that brings you joy and you want to kind of develop those relationships within your family, then you're going to put a 10 there. A 1's like, you know what, I could care less about that. Maybe you're not really interested in kind of furthering your education at this moment in time because you're quite happy with what you're already doing. So you might put a lower number for that, just as an example. Okay, again, just feel free to pause and take some time to kind of settle and focus in on what is actually important to you. And it's really vital to say that you're not putting a 10 or a 2 according to what somebody else thinks or to what you think you should be doing. So maybe you've grown up with this idea that family should be really important so that you feel like this is a major imposition on your life, and that's not actually something that's important to you. That's kind of an exaggerated feeling or example to have. But what I want to make the point is, like, do the things that put the 10s next to the things that actually matter to you most, not to somebody else. So once you've done that, you're going to circle the 3 that you feel most strongly about. So I want you to just take some time, go for those things that are in the top 3 most important to you. Again, not your shoulds, not those things that you think other people would want you to think were important, but what you actually believe to be important. The top 3. And there's a reason I don't want you to pick more than 3. And then once you've done that, we're going to start to dig a little bit deeper into maybe why and how those things are important to you. So for example, my top 3 values are family, physical well-being, and education and personal growth. Those are the things that I really find important to me in my life right now. So if I was going to start to ask some deeper questions, I would put family at the top of my list. So number 1, what kind of relationships do I want to have with my family? And what kind of a daughter and a sister and a wife do I want to be? I've kind of tied in my personal relations with that because I think that a family is family. Number 2 is physical well-being. So a question I might ask is, how do I want to look after myself? And a really good example in my own life of this is my relationship with alcohol and deciding to give that up because it just wasn't making me feel good anymore, and it wasn't helping me to reach my goals of really finding a homeostasis and balance in my life. So I've chosen to take that out of my everyday living because I find that to be really important to me. My number 3 is personal growth. So some questions I might ask is, how would I like to grow? And what kind of skills would I like to develop? Or what would I like to know more about? So it's about, kind of not just letting every little thing that I find interesting take my attention, because then you end up kind of not knowing much about anything because your focus is all over the place. I've been there in the past and have a tendency to do that. But since I've kind of started this value-driven way of living, I can now kind of really understand what motivates me and sparkles me up and makes me feel driven and motivated. So yeah, once you've done all of that, then I want you to start to get into the habit of asking yourself, does this action, choice, option, whatever it is that you're considering, does this support the life that I'm trying to create? And that seems kind of big, and it is kind of big because, you could go through your life not considering that ever, and just kind of letting all the random events happen and feeling totally kind of out of control and like you don't have the ability to make choices and influence those options that you have. But the reality is that you do, and you are going to do the things that are either consciously or unconsciously really important to you. So wouldn't it be much more empowering to actually write them down and start to consider and think about them rather than just kind of randomly going throughout your day and being like, I don't know what to do because there's just too many options. So my challenge to you is, so it's a Friday today. If it's a Friday for you, to take the weekend and take your number 1 item on your level of importance list and choose to prioritize that. You might already have commitments, but I want you to see if you can see what happens when you do shift your mindset and your thinking to be like, okay, well, My physical well-being is number one on my list, so I'm going to choose to go out for a walk in nature to start to help me to calm my mental activity and feel better in my body, to start moving and see what happens. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. It's a little bit in depth, but this is the kind of work that I want to explore deeper with you in a program that I'm creating. So it's going to be a 10-week long program exploring ideas such as this, like how we can live more value-driven life rather than trying to set goals that might be way too big or feel sort of unattainable. How we can make movement, if that's something that's important for you, your physical well-being, how we can start to incorporate movement and really healthy habits into your life so that it can you can find like routines and things to support how you're living and what you're doing already within your family life, within your relationships, things that are going to work for you, strategies that are going to work for you, and really help to nourish and help you live a more fulfilling life. If you have any questions, do let me know, or if you're interested to hear more about this program, feel free to shoot me a comment or a personal message or an email. My email is andrea@mindandmatter.co. All right, I look forward to seeing you in the future, but for now, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, guys.